You won't be able to do this after a few days. And if you're asking what, I mean the freedom that we all have when we speak our minds. That's right, folks. There is a possibility that our freedom of speech will not just be trampled on, it'll be just outright ignored. Remember when this happened?
Just this afternoon, a federal judge barred parts of the administration from contacting social media platforms about online content. Now, the ruling came in response to a lawsuit brought by Republican-led states alleging that the White House went too far in its efforts to curb content that challenged vaccines or threatened elections. The judge said certain departments should not reach out to companies like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram for, quote, the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing any manner the removal, the deletion, the suppression, or the reduction of content containing protected free speech. The ruling singles out several government agencies, including the Department of Justice, of State, the CDC, as well as HHS.
Y'all remember that, right? I remember it very vividly because the first thought in my head was they did this to all of us during the health crisis. I mean, doctors, guys, they were outright canceled because of all this. And what? Because they had an opinion that was backed by numbers? And like, I've seen this firsthand when some of my videos get buried in the algorithm. Now, the Biden administration was pretty determined to get this overruled because, you know, they obviously enjoyed that power of control, whatever narrative was being talked about online. But now, okay, now a federal appeals court said that the Biden administration most likely violated the First Amendment in some of their communications with social media platforms. Oh boy.
The free speech protections of the First Amendment are so complicated, it's no surprise that most Americans seem to misunderstand them. Free speech is anything but absolute. In fact, it only prevents the government from intruding on speech. The First Amendment gives a person no right whatsoever to say whatever they want on a private company's platform. Of course, all speech is subject to some regulation, whether or not it's on a private forum. You can't threaten people, you can't slander people, there are some limitations. But as much as social media companies like Facebook or Twitter feel like publicly available forums for anybody, they are anything but. These social media companies are privately owned. They're not owned by the government. There is a developing philosophical debate that a social media company or an internet service provider may become so important to speech that they are a kind of public forum. In the future, there may be legislation saying that Facebook or Twitter or whatever comes after those things is a kind of public forum, and it may even be regulated by the government. First Amendment law is constantly evolving because the way we speak is constantly evolving, and the forum in which we speak evolves as well. Companies can't be forced by the government to put out speech that they don't want to put out there. In fact, even if a person is completely denied access to speaking on the internet, nothing prevents that person from opening their window and shouting out onto a crowded street. Ultimately, the First Amendment only limits government action. It gives a private person no right to say whatever they want in a private forum.
I'm not real sure if this video right here is actually going to get buried too, but if you're like me and you value your freedom to say what you want, please go ahead and smash the like button for the video. That's going to turn the algorithm in our favor. And of course, subscribe to the channel because we need more people who want the truth, not less of them. All right. Appreciate the support, you guys. Now, going back, which administration officials went beyond what was allowed? Or to make it simple, who the heck stepped on our rights? Well, it says here that the officials from the White House, the Surgeon General, the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they all likely coerced or significantly encouraged social media platforms like Facebook, like TikTok, like Instagram, like Snapchat to moderate their content. Oh, and we know all about Twitter, also known as X. But you know what's the best part about all this? The papers regarding this case is out in the public. I mean, I actually have a copy and I want to show you guys exactly what the government wants to do, or in this case, continue to do against one of our most basic rights, which again, is our freedom of speech. Now, while the government agrees that coercing and encouraging these platforms to censor disfavored speech is a blatant disregard of our rights, they also showed examples of how they suggested changes based on what they thought was right. Kind of like giving a small nudge toward a direction that they want these companies to go. You know what I'm saying? And this one right here from page 4, it really got me because they, the government, they said that their position isn't that social media platforms should remove vaccine hesitancy content, but, and this is the gaslighting part of it all, They're also they're freaking asking why a flagged post was still up. They're asking why a flagged post was still up. Like, are y'all for real? Like, what is the difference between telling these platforms to just straight up delete content compared to asking why content is still up? Kind of like, hey, we don't want you to remove this post, but look at that. It looks like it's reached a lot of people already. Why aren't you doing something about this? I mean, it's insanity, guys. However, I am glad that this is up online because it means that free thinkers are, well, they're free to read it and judge it for what they want, rather than just what anybody else wants us to think. So here we see a great example of what some platforms removed, and it's a video from the Louisiana Department of Justice that shows citizens testifying against public policies when the C-19 virus was still a thing. So yes, another example of coercion from the government, and a very clear example of them going above and beyond to silence what they think is misinformation. That's the thing here, guys. If they think that it's false, then it's false. No need to check the numbers or the data. They say it's final, and that's what they wanted all of the platforms to do. Although, to be fair, and I guess some platforms were, a little hesitant to just give in to the pressure from the federal government. An official from the administration basically admonished one platform by saying that the content removal was one of the easiest parts of their jobs, and that these platforms had to prove themselves by taking action, much like how others had given in to their wishes. Now, the best part here was that the official even asked, I don't know why you guys can't figure this out. Can you believe that? Like, these other platforms just let us do what we want. What makes you so special? And just to add the little cherry on the top, right? It says here that the chilling of an individual's exercise of their First Amendment rights is in itself a constitutionally sufficient injury. And again, I have to go back to my own channel here for this one, but I have time and time again seen my views just take a dive because of some of the topics I talk about. Because y'all know that just like you guys, I'm a free thinker. I want to get both sides of the story. I want the data. I want the information that's out there. And I lay it out for you guys because, I want you to be able to make your own opinions. I'm not going to come on here and tell you what to think. I'm not going to tell you I'm right and they're wrong. That's up for you to decide. But here we see this kind of suppression is a sufficient injury already. Can you believe that? Now, here's a question for you guys. Do you ever feel as if your accounts weren't even your own? That you had to tiptoe over policies that, in all honesty, didn't really even make sense? Have you ever been in Facebook jail for something simple that you're like, what? So here's the thing, and this is why I'm still a little bit worried about this entire deal. It also says here that the government, or the Biden administration for this case, doesn't necessarily violate the First Amendment if all they're doing is following up with these companies regarding content moderation. Even asking these companies to look out for specific topics isn't stepping on our rights according to them. And I mean, it's a tightrope to walk on, huh? Now it begs the question, what happens next? Well, we all know that our government wants this power back. They want to be able to police what we say, what we read online, because that's one of the fastest ways to get information across to millions of people. And information is power, folks. Something that they absolutely don't want us to have, because by then they could lose that control. But you guys tell me what you think down in the comment section down below. Should they be given the power to influence and coerce social media companies, or should we as citizens of the country be given the right to speak our mind and formulate our own opinions? Now, before I go, guys, I just want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for listening to this rant. Thanks for dropping a like for the video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing these videos. And I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Y'all be safe.